guy really tough. If you want to stop him, you have to choke him or knock him out. This guy gonna fight 5 rounds.
My people, the heritage, my family, and the values that was installed. It's something that I'm extremely proud of.
New level in the octagon, and that's exactly what he did.
For Du Plessis.
Dricus is a 2-1 favorite, and I don't imagine that hits you as a surprise at all. In fact, if I was to just ask you to guess what the odds are, you probably said Dricus, and you probably said it was close, right? 2-1. 2-1 is an interesting number, though. These guys fought 1 year ago. It was January of last year, so 13 months. And Dricus was dismissed. Dricus was a 2-1 underdog. So I'm just trying to take you back. This part I do find somewhat philosophical and fascinating to a degree, which is, we didn't know what to think the first time these guys fought. But they've now fought. And one judge thought Strickland won. In fact, so many of you thought Strickland won that that's what's getting us back to this rematch. The UFC does not just jump on rematches. And it's to the point that when they used to do them, it would be right away. If you weren't getting an immediate rematch, you weren't getting a rematch. But now, you got to recline, but they will make the same fight as long as you aren't satisfied with the previous outcome. It's very interesting. It's interesting in that regard, and what I'm trying to prove is, there was a 2-1 for Dricus, and we've now seen them fight to the point that you think you know who won. One licensed judge rolls with thinks it was Sean. I just find that it's interesting that we get back to the exact same point with the same guys in the same weight class fighting under the same rule set, but the odds have changed. See, when you have 2-1, it's not just, well, it was close odds and it was Strickland. Now it's close odds, but it's Dricus. It's not. You got to close that gap, and then you got to surpass it. So mathematically, you're talking about 4 points, right? One guy doesn't just go up 2 to 1. He's got to come down 2 and go 2 the other way. The other guy's got to. I mean, are you understanding? What is it you saw? What is it that you believe that you know?
Fight fans, welcome back to Luxury Tainment.
And I can't tell you you're wrong. I'm telling you that I think it's Strickland, but I will also disclose I can't imagine Strickland having a fight and me not picking Strickland. I'm very biased. You understand that. But I am also very objective with my analysis, right? Even if my pick is based on a bias, my analysis is me speaking about what I saw. You know where I got that line, by the way? Say what you saw. You know where I got that line? I've been given one piece of advice for commentating. When I'm in the suit and I'm coming in and talking to you guys, I've been given one piece of advice ever by Joe Rogan. Ever. If that's the master, like, it's very important that if he sets something down that you pick it up. And I did. I took this with me. And it was in a lobby bar in Boston. I had a day's work on a movie with Kevin James. And Joe Rogan had a day's work on this movie, so we stayed at the same hotel. I was not meeting Joe down at the bar, like he happened to be there, I happened to be there, I happened to sit down. We're talking about something completely different, and I wasn't even a commentator back then, but I remember Rogan said that. He said, when you're commentating, say what you saw. And where that had come from at that specific time is we were having a number of commentators that would put a guy over. Like a fight would be garbage. We would have a fight in certain promotions that was rotten garbage, and the announcers would be trying to sell it. Like, I remember specifically these 2 guys that were circling and absolutely nothing was happening. And one of them throws this punch and the announcer's like, oh my God, he unleashed a bomb! Like it was one of these things. And that was a belief. Many people thought that that's what you need to do as the commentator. You need to carry it and you need to cover. And in the world of professional wrestling, even when you have cooperation, you have things that happen off script. And so it is the announcer's job when he sees that to attempt to tell the story and bring the audience along, as opposed to saying they just botched a spot. So there was good reason to believe it. I'm just sharing with you, Rogan did not believe it. And Rogan said, if you don't want to put guys down, you can avoid that. But if they're standing there looking at each other, do not pretend or suggest to your audience that they're not standing there circling looking at each other. You got to say what you saw. So I want you to know that it's a powerful thing when you find out that it came from Joe Rogan, right? So what I saw was a very close fight. And what I saw was Dricus is better than we knew. When Dricus started getting his run, it was not because he beat so-and-so. It was not because of a performance that he put on. When Dricus started to get his rub, he did it on Twitter. And he did it attacking a card placement of Bo Nickel. Dricus was not calling out Bo. Dricus had his own business. In fact, that night he was opposite Darren Till. But Dricus was on the undercard. Bo was debuting in the same weight class in a feature match. And that's where Dricus said, I've been here. I'm a veteran. I traveled these roads. You're going to bring this guy in. This is Dricus talking. You're going to bring a guy in that's never done this before, and you're going to put him over me. That's wrong. And you kind of sat back and listened. Like, that was a very unique argument. I don't know that it had ever been made before. We've seen things like this happen, but I don't know of a time that a guy spoke up for himself quite with this kind of a mindset. So, Bo ends up getting hurt. Bo comes off the card. You got to have an adjustment. Who does it go to? Of course it went to the squeaky wheel. And Dricus finds himself on TV fighting Darren Till. And it was a really interesting match where they did a little bit of everything. They did some punching and kicking. They did some wrestling. That ultimately came down to some conditioning. Like, they really showed a little bit of everything. So Dricus, as a reward, gets thrown into a co-main event. This is a guy that couldn't even get on television. Now, I will say a second time on television, he's in a co-main event. Oh, by the way, against Robert Whittaker. Dricus is screwed. It was the ultimate example of be careful what you ask for because you just might get it. Dricus is screwed. There is nobody that can beat Robert Whittaker. There is nobody not named Israel Adesanya that can even win rounds against Robert Whittaker. And Dricus went out, and it was ugly and dirty, and I remember that headlock. Like, I'll never forget when he just threw him down like a playground bully. But for some reason, we didn't give him his due. We felt like, man, Whittaker had a bad night, or he got on a roll. We didn't give him his due. So Dricus, because he's in the right place at the right time, gets a title fight with Sean. And I'm bringing that to you because Sean very much had an advantage. Whether Sean likes this or not, he very much had an advantage over Israel Adesanya in that it was Sean's dream and it was nothing that Izzy wanted to do. Izzy at no point is driving around in his car thinking about potential fights, and he's thinking of a guy not in the top 5. It's not true. Izzy had heat and he had a personal beef. It just wasn't with Sean. So meanwhile, Sean, all he wants to do is get an opportunity to be champion of the world. He got everything he wanted, and Izzy's got to do something that he's not interested in doing. That was a meaningful advantage for Sean, and I bring that to you because that's the spot Sean found himself in against Dricus. Sean had business, possibly with Kamaru Usman. Sean had a piece of business, supposedly with his former teammate, Kazmat Chimaev. Sean was being offered business in a rematch against Adesanya. It had nothing to do with Dricus. So Sean's got to put those same pants on that Izzy had to put on, and he found out when you find yourself in a fight harder than you thought it was going to be, it can get away from you. And that's what I feel like I saw. It's one of the reasons I'm so confident in Sean. I am very confident that tomorrow night, Dricus is going to find himself in a fight that's harder than he thinks it's going to be. He's not fighting the same guy that he fought 13 months ago. He's not fighting a guy where you're the last thing on his mind. You're not even on his mind. Dricus is the only thing on Sean's mind. And I acknowledge it was close the first time. I did think that Sean lost. I thought that Dricus won that fight. I wasn't happy about it, but that is what I thought. But I also found out that a lot of people tell me I should rewatch it. Found out that a licensed judge did not agree. I found out that Sean Strickland, the two fighters that fight always know who won. I have one exception to that. I have one exception. I had a fight with Michael Bisping. I did not know who won. But what I'm sharing is Sean sincerely thought that he won that fight. And Sean's motivation is much different this time. So if it was close the first time, and we have evidence that it should be close the second time.
DDP has said some things, but boy, does he ever do it with charisma. And he'll do it with a smile on his face. DDP talked about death a week ago, and he said that everybody asks themselves the same question: am I willing to die out here? And he said dying's easy. The real question is, are you willing to kill? Are you willing for that man to die? And you live and go on with your life, if that's what it took for victory. And then he said about himself that he is. That's what separates him. And I'm only sharing for you, that's a hot line. That's a hot topic. But Dricus is able to have some of these hot mic moments come right through. So can we agree that he's good on the mic? Yes? Okay. Well, just how good is he? Because he's in a very peculiar weight class right now. 185 pounds has never had a spotlight on it like it does right now. And by the way, it's not over. It was last week with Izzy. It's this week with these guys, but the month ends with Cannonier. I mean, it's all 185, right? You got Arnold Allen is going to slip in there on a different weekend. Like, 185 pounds is being looked at right now, but what's so peculiar about it is the consensus number one guy is none of the guys I just mentioned. The large belief, if you were to just do a popularity and just ask people, who do you think, is Khamzat Chimaev. So, I believe Chimaev's next, but that hasn't been made perfectly clear. It turns out Chimaev is not the backup fighter, which still you think would mean that he's next, but he doesn't appear to be next. He's not talking about championships. He's talking about Sean Strickland. Chimaev has been very aggressive going at Sean, but I don't know of anything Chimaev had to say to Dricus. I don't know of anything that Dricus had to say to Chimaev. Like, it does kind of appear that Chimaev, while we think is the number one contender, moreover is aligning himself with Strickland. Is there a strategy there? Is he tipping his hat that he thinks Sean is going to win? Or are they not related? I'm just sharing for you what's going on. I'm sharing for you the landscape, because it can be very risky when you're not named the number one contender, and that is not something that more recently the UFC is afraid to do. I remember when Merab flies out to Miami to watch Cheeto and O'Malley, and Merab sat there, announced ahead of time as the guy that will be taking on the winner. I remember Sphere, O'Malley versus Merab, where Nurmagomedov was put in the front row and identified ahead of time as the guy who would be facing the winner. So, it's not as though there's this policy where we don't announce that, but it is accurate by me that it's yet to have been announced. Should we draw into that? Is that an area we should look at? Because if Dricus comes in second, history says you gotta go to the rubber match. And by the way, trilogies do great if it's a true trilogy. We've had a number of trilogies, but it's the third time guys fought. Third time guys fought is not a true trilogy. Trilogy, with that colloquial definition, comes with they split results in the first two. I mean, it would be a big deal. We could agree. We want to see this fight, Sean and Dricus, but if Sean wins, and we are going to want to see that rematch, while knowing we've got to do something with Chimaev, but we also know that we can pull the rug out on Chimaev because we're hearing about this travel business, and more than anything, he hasn't been announced ahead of time as the number one contender. Like, there was no way to get around Merab if you were O'Malley. There was no way to get around Nurmagomedov if you were Merab. There was no way around it. But we do have a workaround. And if Dricus comes up short, and you're acknowledging with me that he's good on the mic. The guys that are good on the mic can go both ways. They got a direction to go if they win. They got a direction to go if they come in second. And there should be nothing that Dricus does other than get himself an immediate rematch, of which I believe he's going to. If Dricus is to lose to Sean, I do believe Dricus gets an immediate title shot. And all that would mean is that Dricus' next fight will be for the championship. I don't know. Possibly they will do Sean and Chimaev in between. But there is a little flexibility right now. And there is a job to be done. Right? This whole division would be in a very different spot had Adesanya won last week and got an opportunity on the mic. He would have gone after somebody and that fight would have been made. And I'm just wondering if you believe Dricus has that same ability.
Everybody, I'm coming for everybody, kill everybody!